Good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I wanted to talk to you about this guy here. This is my samurai orchid, or my Neofineitia falcata. I've had this guy for a few years. There are some real fans of these orchids, so this video is not going to do the experts any kind of justice. This is just sort of a basic care video on how I take care of this plant. This is just sort of typical form, all white. The blooms are starting to fade, but I had to move this down because I just did a Dracula orchid video, and it's hanging on a semi-shaded wall by the Dracula orchids, and I thought it just looks so great right now that I might as well film it for you. And to boot, it smells awesome. It smells like coconut to me, like a coconut cream pie or something like that. So this plant has a little bit different care than the last ones we talked about. We just finished talking about Dracula orchids. So this guy here is also in a net pot, and I'm going to show you the net pot. Now, as you can see, he likes to grow a lot more roots than the Dracula orchids, and they're much bigger roots, more like Cattleya roots. When you see these bigger roots like that, it means they can dry out at certain times of the year with less repercussions than if they're really fine roots. The Dracula orchid roots we just looked at were so fine you can hardly see them. And there's another example of some roots that are allowed to dry out a little bit more than a Dracula or Massivalia's roots. So anyways, they grow lots of roots. I have it growing in moss, but it really isn't growing in moss all that much. I remember repotting this not too long ago, last year about this time, in March. And it was hard to repot. I kept it in this pot because it had all these roots to start with, and I painstakingly picked out the moss. It took me a good 20 minutes or so to get rid of it all between washing it in the sink and using some tweezers. I painstakingly removed all the moss, kept the roots intact, and then painstakingly put new moss and bark back in here. So these guys do like a wet season, and they do like a dry season. This time of year is their wet season, and this plant is in need of a bit of water. It still feels moist to my finger, but I couldn't wring out the media and get any water out of it. So it's definitely time to re-water it. And when the days start getting brighter, for me, this tends to bloom for me. And as you can see, it's got 1, 2, 3 spikes on it this year, and then a fourth. So 4 spikes currently on it. I've had more than that, but not many more. And yeah, they're just beautiful little orchids. Beautiful little flowers on it. Let's see if we can get a close-up of that. But they smell amazing. So this guy hangs on the same wall as the Draculas are on here. I'm going to slowly spin you so you can get an idea. There's a Vampiro we just had a look at. And it's down low, but quite close to the wall there. So it gets a lot of morning sun. And then the bright, you can see the doors like flapping open in the wind. And then by the time the sun gets hot, it's gone from this plant. I have had it in brighter sun, and maybe that's why I had more blooms in the past. It grows from fans, kind of like a Vanda would. These are very Vanda-ish like orchids. And they multiply through fans. And you can see, I started with 1, and now I've got too many to count. There's probably 10 on there or more. I haven't tried dividing it. I'm just letting it fan out as big as it wants to get to. And yeah, the little buds, or the little stems for the flowers, come out through the spike is the word I'm looking for. The little spikes come out through the fans there, and they come out quite quickly. There's like nothing there, and then all of a sudden there's something there. So my root is caught on this plant down below here. I want to be careful not to break it. Being there's lots of humidity in here, the roots are just allowed to sort of grow and stream down, and there's some good growth tips on them, so I'm not worried about that. These plants, well, looking at the root growth tips, they even, depending on the color of the growth tip, depends on how much you're going to pay for the plant. This one is just the regular growth tip, but there's like red and green and all kinds of growing tips as well that make these plants sometimes worth a lot of money. I don't plant it in anything fancy. I'm too practical here in the greenhouse to have it in a nice fancy pot, but you can buy nice fancy pots for these. There are special ways of potting them up if you want to. They almost look bonsai-ish when they're potted up like that. Again, this isn't a real proper way to pot these guys, but yeah, if you're interested, you should Google it, because there's a lot of cool information on these. So again, this is the Neofineitia falcata. We talked about the summer temps. Now the winter. In the winter, it gets a dry winter rest, and I stop watering it. And that gives it a sort of dry winter season. The light levels are reduced, the temperatures are reduced in the greenhouse. It still grows on the cool side, so it gets a cool winter rest. And then, yeah, it basically almost just completely dries out. I still give it a little bit of water as I pass by with a hose, but in the summer, the moss never like dries out. In the winter, it gets sort of misted every once in a while. But for the most part, it turns into a really low maintenance plant that I forget about until springtime when I start to see new growth on it again. So anyways, yeah, awesome little plant. I definitely recommend finding one. This one wasn't expensive. It was probably $30 or so. I bought it at an orchid show. And again, it was tiny. It didn't bloom for a few years, but definitely glad I picked it up when I did so that I have it blooming size now. I hope you liked this video. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe to my channel. And as always, thanks for watching. Try to do one final close-up here. The coconut smells amazing. I can smell it like from here while I'm filming too. Thanks, guys.